Hello everyone, I hope you are doing well. In this video, I'm going to talk about Jaques Derrida. You know that he is an important writer in deconstruction, and in this single video, I try to bring all his important work and his important concept, which will be important for UGC net. And as you know that UGC always prefer to give Jaques Derrida's concept, and in this last exam also they gave the concept of Jaques Derrida's, which is aporia, right? So in this video I try to took all these things, all his important work, and maybe the video will be little long, so please stay with me, and if you like this video please hit the like button. So start with Jaques Derrida, and he was born in 1930 and died in 2004. Here is the picture of Jaques Derrida, and let's see his background, little background. Jacques Derrida was a French philosopher. So please note down that he was a French, because sometimes they also gave this type of question that you have to match the nationality of this theorist. So he is a French philosopher renowned for developing a form of semiotic analysis known as deconstruction. Born in Algiers in 1930, Derrida became one of the most influential figures in contemporary philosophy and literary theory. His work has profoundly impacted various fields, including linguistics, sociology, and anthropology, and also law. Let's see his most important concepts. After that I will go to the important works. So his most important concept, as you know, that deconstruction is this word deconstruction is coming from the word by Heidegger, destruction, right? So this word came from destruction, and deconstruction is Derrida's most and famous controversial concept. It's involved the critical reading of text to reveal inherent contradictions and assumptions, thereby questioning the traditional foundation of meaning and understanding. Deconstruction challenges the idea that words have fixed meaning. So deconstruction challenges the idea that words have fixed meaning, suggesting instead that meaning is always in flux and context dependent. So here the important concept by Jaques Derrida is that the deconstruction. So deconstruction challenges the idea that meaning have the fixed meaning is fixed, meaning is stable. So he here try to convey that meaning is not fixed. He use other kind of words like difference, then undecidability, free play, these kinds of term he used, and I will go it by one. So he challenges the idea that the words have fixed meaning, suggesting instead that meaning is always flux, and context dependent. So it is context dependent, it cannot be stable. The meaning you are writing, the meaning you are interpret right now cannot be same for other, cannot be same for 2 years later, cannot be same for me or you, right? So it can be, I can be interpret the text in another way and you can be in another way, so it's depend on the reader also. Then the binary opposition. So the binary opposition is the another concept by Jaques Derrida. Derrida explored how binary oppositions such as good, evil, or presence, absence are not fixed but interdependent. He showed that these pairs are constructed through language and discourse. So he said that the binary opposition, that he is good, he is evil, his presence and absence, it not also fixed, it is all, but it's interdependent, interdependent of the context. He showed that how the pairs constructed through language and the discourse. Then his most important idea is most important term, difference. This term combines the meaning of difference or deferral in French. So in French it is called difference or deferral. Derrida use it to describe how meaning is always differ in language, as words can only be understood in relation to others. This creates an endless chain of signifiers with no ultimate fixed meaning. So with no ultimate fixed meaning, difference undercuts the notion of stable definitive meaning in text. So he said that word always differ from its place. These word that cow may be changed little, or it shifts it place, or he also used the displacement of meaning. It can be changed its meaning in 2 years, right? So it cannot be changed, it can be changed in context. It cannot be stable or definite meaning in text. Maybe if I said the cow, maybe I'm referring actually the animal cow, or maybe I use it to bully someone, right? So it changes its meaning throughout its when we give it the context, right? So it cannot be fixed, cannot be stable. It displace or change its place through time. So this creates an endless change of signifiers and with no ultimate and fixed meaning. This is called difference. Then trace. So the concept trace signifies the presence of absence in language. Words carry traces of other meanings and references, creating a network connection that shapes their meaning. So what is trace? Trace is signifies the presence of absence. The presence of absence in language. If I say that only boys are allowed in this classroom, mean I here rejecting the girls, right? So here in their absence there is a presence that a girl cannot enter in my class, right? So in the if I say that there only women can enter this place, so there is a absence of men, there is an absence of men. So in their absence there are also a presence. So in word, in text also, if we say that he is a good girl, mean there is an absence of bad, the evil, but the absence is also present. So this is called trace. The concept of trace signifies the presence of absence, the presence of absence in language. This is also important concept by him. Then logocentrism. So logocentrism, Derrida critiques logocentrism, the Western philosophical tradition that privileges speech over writing. So he said that the Western philosophical tradition, they privileges the speech over writing, posits a central and authoritative meaning of logos. Logos means speech. So they gave more preferences, more privilege to the speech than writing. He argues that this privilege is arbitrary and unfounded, suggesting that writing is just as fundamental to human experience and understanding as speech. So he argues this, that privileging the speech is arbitrary and unfounded, suggesting that writing is just as fundamental to human experience as the speech, understanding the speech. Therefore, he used the word phallogocentrism. Phallogocentrism. So the concept combines logocentrism with phallocentrism. So what is phallic? You know that what is phallic? The male organ. So critiquing that how Western thought often prioritize male-centered viewpoints. So how the Western philosophy, Western thought, they always prioritize the male-centered viewpoints and speech over writing. How they always privilege the speech over writing. Derrida argues that this dual privileging reflects and reinforces patriarchal structure in society. So He argues that this privileging reflects and reinforces the patriarchal structures in society. That how the word phallic mean the male organ. That how the patriarchal structure in society reflects in their language, and the privileging of speech over writing is also like the patriarchal enforcement in language. Then the other concept by him, supplement. Derrida introduced the idea supplement, which refers to the way an addition or substitution can change the meaning of a text or concept. Supplements complicate the notion of complete and self-containing meaning. So, what is supplement? Derrida introduced the idea of supplement, which refers to the way an addition and substitution can change the meaning of a text. So if you add something or if you subtract something, it changes the concept, it changes the meaning. So supplements complicate the notion of a complete and self-contained meaning. Then undecidability. So what is undecidability? Derrida emphasizes the undecidability of meaning, asserting that text contain multiple interpretations. So as I said that I can interpret the text in my way and you can interpret the text in your way. So it is called the undecidability. We cannot decide the actual, the stable, the fixed meaning. There is no fixed meaning in the text, right? So he said that asserting the text contain multiple interpretation and interpretation cannot be definitively resolved. This challenges the idea of a single and authoritative reading. So you cannot say that by reading the text you cannot say that this is the right thing, this is the right interpretation. I can interpret it in my way, right? Like the Paradise Lost. Someone says, some critics says that Milton was in favor of Saturn because he makes Saturn as a hero. So he is in favor of Saturn. But if I said that no, Milton cannot be in favor of Saturn because he here tried to make Saturn as a villain more powerful, so that when he fight with God, you can say that your enemy is how powerful your enemy is and how you defeat him. So he here tried to give Saturn the level of God, so that you can understand that God is the superior. God can defeat him. The most heroic Saturn. God can defeat him also. This is my interpretation. I can interpret it like that. So this is the undecidability, right? Then ontology. Ontology, this term refers to the presence of absent or spectral elements within the text. Culture, memory, it reflects how past meaning continue to resonate and shape the present. So how our past meaning, past interpretation can change and shape and resonate the present, right? So it is called ontology. This term refers to the presence of absent and spectral elements within the text. Then aporia, his most important term, and this term is always asked, and this time they also ask this term aporia. It is given by Derrida. Aporia is a state or perplexity or contradiction that arises when one encounters the limitations or contradictions within a text or concept. Derrida used aporia to highlight the gaps and tension that resist straightforward interpretation. So when we interpret something, there is a state of ambiguity where we cannot decide the meaning. We cannot go in a fixed meaning. We cannot go in an interpretation. So this state is called aphoria. So aphoria is a state of perplexity or contradiction. We contradict with ourselves that is this right? Is this the right interpretation? It is a state of perplexity and contradiction that arises when one encounters the limitations or contradiction within a text or concept. Derrida used aphoria to highlight gaps, tension that raises the straightforward interpretation. Okay. Then paragon. Derrida explores the concept paragon, which reflects in the to the framing elements that exist outside the main context of the content of the work. These framing elements are often seen as secondary but contribute to the overall meaning. So this is the that exists outside the text. This is the refers the framing elements that are exist outside the text, and these framing elements are often seen as secondary but contribute to the overall meaning. Okay. Then, and Derrida also said that there is no nothing outside the text, right? Then free play. What is free play? Derrida emphasized the play of signifiers. The word the way word symbols interact and derive meaning from each other. Textual play or free play disrupts fixed meaning and interpretation. So there is a free play of meaning. You can interpret it like that, you can interpret it in your way. So there is a free play or textual play in the meaning. Then heterogeneity. Derrida highlighted the heterogeneity within the text and concepts, the coexistence of various meaning and references. This challenged the notion of a singular and ununified meaning. So in his whole concept, there is one single thing we can understand, that there is no, he said that there is no single meaning. There is, you cannot say that this is the evil, this is the good. You cannot say there is, you cannot go in a fixed meaning. There is always a undecidability, there is always a ambiguity, there is always a free play of meaning. So he rejects the idea of structuralism, where Saussure said the binary opposition, that good with bad, black with white. So for me, black can be good, for you white can be bad, right? So there is no fixed meaning that white is always good, white is always interpret purity. Black can also be pure, black color can also be reflect purity. So he said this. Then let's see his major works. Major works, first is Structure, Sign and Play in the Discourse of Human Science. So please note down this. It is published in 1966. It is an essay by Jaques Derrida presented at the conference at Johns Hopkins University in 1966. It is considered a foundational text in deconstruction and post-structuralist thought. So in the John Hopkins University, he gave a lecture. He in a conference he gave this essay. Derrida critiques the traditional notion of fixed structure in human sciences, highlighting the idea of highlighting how the idea of centered structure, one with a definitive foundation of origin, has been destabilized. He introduced the concept play to describe the fluid and dynamic nature of meaning within structures, arguing that that science gains significance through a fixed meaning, but through their differences of other meanings, other signs. The decentering leads to Derrida calls it a free play, where absence of the central anchor allows for a open-ended and ever-changing process of interpretation. By challenging the metaphysical tradition that seeks stable meaning, and Derrida's essays advocates for a post-structuralist approach and profoundly impacting literary theory, philosophy, and human sciences by encouraging a more flexible and nuanced understanding of a meaning and interpretation. That he said that text should be flexible, so you should interpret it in flexible way. It cannot be fixed or cannot be stable, and he used the word free play in this essay. Then of grammatology, his most important work, 1967, and is a seminal work by Jaques Derrida, first published in 1967, which lays foundation of his theory of deconstruction. In this book, Derrida challenges the traditional Western hierarchy, the logocentrism and phonocentrism. Okay, so here I make you understand the concept fast, so that you can now relate with them in their text, right? So the Western hierarchy that patronizes the speech over writing, a concept he terms as logocentrism. He argues that writing is not merely a derivative form of language, and but a fundamental aspect of human communication and thought. So he said that, he argues that writing is not a merely a, it not just a derivative form of language, but a fundamental aspect of human communication and thought. Derrida introduced the concept difference. So Derrida used the concept difference in this essay, within the which encapsulates the idea that meaning is always differ and differentiated through language, thereby undermining the notion of fixed and stable meanings. And this book meticulously deconstructs the works of prominent philosophers, particularly Rousseau and Saussure. That you know that how he rejects or try to improve their concepts, demonstrating how their ideas inadvertently reveal the intrinsic instability of linguistic and philosophical structures. So this is called this essay is of grammatology. Then his another important work, writing degree zero. Sorry, writing degree zero, not degree zero is a work by Barthes, right? So writing and difference, there is a typo. Writing and difference, it is a work by Derrida, and it was published in 1967. This collection of essays further explores the concept of writing and its implication. Derrida discusses language, literature, metaphysics, and the ways in which meaning is deferred and disrupted. So how meaning is deferred and disrupted. Then speech and phenomena, it was published in 1967. In this work, Derrida explores the relationship between speech and writing again, and challenging the traditional view that that speech is primarily and right is secondary. So the traditional view, he argues against the he argues against the concept, the traditional concept of primary, and the traditional view that speech is primary and writing is secondary. He argues that writing is not just a representation of speech, but fundamental to the structure of language and meaning. Then writing difference. Oh, sorry, again this word, which is published in writing in 1967. This collection of essays delves into the various aspects of writing and its role shaping human reality. Derrida critiques the traditional prioritization of speech over writing, and examines how writing influenced the philosophical and literary text. Then Margins of Philosophy, it was published in 1972. In this book, Derrida deconstructs classical philosophical concepts and focusing on how text and writing shape philosophical thought, and he explores them such as presence and absence, and appearance and difference, emphasizing the role of writing in constructing reality. Then his another work is Of Spirit, which was published in 1987. Derrida's exploration of the concept of spirit examines its historical, philosophical, and religious implications. He deconstructs the opposition between spirit, matter, and revealing their interdependence. So these are the most important works by Derrida, and there are also others work, but here I only took these work. And there is an another concept by him which is archie writing, means speech over writing, the same archie writing, which is mean speech over writing. Phonocentrism, which is also speech is better than writing. Phonocentrism and arch writing, please note down this, I forgot to include it. Okay, then next, now see his works in chronologically, because sometimes they ask in that way also. So of grammatology, you know that it was published in 1967, and this book introduced reconstruction and challenge of the traditional prioritization of speech over writing. Then writing and differences, 1967, it is also a collection of essays. Then speech and phenomena, it was published in 1967. Then dissemination, which was published in 1972. Then margin of philosophy, it was published in 1972. Then postcard from Socrates to Freud and beyond, it was published in 1980. Then limited ink, it was published in 1988. Then spectra of Marx and the state of depth, the work of Morning and the New International, it was published in 1993. It engages the Marxist theory and it reveals the contemporary issues. Then Politics of Friendship, it was published in 1994, discuss the concept of friendship in political and philosophical concepts. So now let's see quickly his some important quote from on this deconstruction. What he said about deconstruction, that deconstruction is not a method or some tool that you apply to something for the outside. Deconstruction is something which happens and which happens inside. There is deconstruction at work, and Plato's work, for instance. Then on writing and text, what he said, that there is nothing outside the text. There is nothing outside the text. Then writing is not a sign or of absence. It is an instrument of relationships. So it is not a sign of absence. It is an instrument of relationship. Then on difference, he says that difference is not merely concept but also the possibility of conceptuality of a conceptual process and system in general. Of presence and absence, he said the presence of the present is always process of selection, filtration and elimination. So this is the important quote, please note down it, that the presence of the present is always a process of selection, of filtration and elimination. Then about language and meaning, he said that language bears within itself the necessity of its own critic. So language bears within itself the necessity of its own critic. Then on interpretation, he says, to pretend I actually do the thing, I have therefore only pretended to pretend. So this is also a good quote. Then on philosophy, he said that, about philosophy, he said that the philosopher cannot genuinely accept the everyday language of the non-philosopher, and yet he must accept it. Okay. And ethics and responsibility, he said responsibility is always singular and cannot be shared. It is always my responsibility. Then hospitality implies the reception of the other without the restriction of condition and without an invitation, and with absolute right to privacy. Identify and differences, he said that identity is always constructed in the relationship to others. So that's all, I hope you like it, you like my way of explanation, and thank you for giving your time.